constituency called Konyo. And Kiamavara is about 3 miles, I'm old school, we are still in miles, 3 miles from Karatina. So it was walking distance during our time. And in Kiamavara Primary School is where I started my journey, as a student, and I was there for 7 years. I would say I lived the life of a village girl, doing what village girls do. They go to school, they fetch firewood, they go to the river, they carry water with a jar or a mutungi on your back. And they also take care of cows. In our tradition, there is no difference between boys and girls when it comes to you milk the cows, and you do the same chores especially with your mother. So I would say my journey started in Kiamavara Primary School, as academically, but there was the time before school, which is very important to me, which is the time I spent at home with my mother and my siblings. I would say I got to learn many things, from my father, who was a great disciplinarian, and really having not much light to do homework for evening. So we always did our homework, during the day. And in that environment was my mother, who was very central to my life. And my mother, I was the last born of my mother, and she really spent a lot of time, with me. And God knows why. Now I later learned that I was not going to be with her for a long time, because she passed on when I was about 14 years. But I learned a lot of things from my mother, who encouraged us in school, to do schoolwork, and kept on telling me, Muthoni, one day, if you work hard, you could be a doctor like your brother. And then in Kiamavara Primary School, we were kind of, I would say, people who are pioneers, because we were the first class 5. In that school, she only started, and we were also very lucky that by the time we got to class 7, the government decided that we could do our high school, examinations in class 7. And I was lucky, I don't know whether it's a combination of luck, hard work, and also, God's favor, that I got to Alliance Girls High School. So that's, again, how did I want, but my dream of being a doctor was actually born in the village. I would say, I would like to continue a little bit about my journey, because before I get to the point where now I am, where I am as executive chairman of the current hospital, there was also the journey of, I would say in primary school, the teachers were really also like, very, very clear as to what they wanted us, they wanted us to pass, and they worked very hard. There were no tuition those days. It was just the teacher took, their time, to teach us and to prepare us for the examinations. So I'm very happy about that, and I'm grateful to all those primary school teachers. But those 6 years that I spent in Alliance shaped me and shaped, my dream further, because I needed to do science subjects, and I was lucky that in Alliance Girls High School there was physics and mathematics and biology were offered as subjects that many girls' schools did not have at that time, and many of the girls who wanted to do medicine or science subjects would have to come to Alliance Girls for their A-levels. I matured into a young lady, and I was accepted to the University of Nairobi Medical School in 1970, and we very fondly remember each other. We have still a group of the class of 1970, of doctors who have been together for 1970 to date is 50. This is the 51st year, so we have known each other for a long time, and just for the record, that's why I met Dr. Betty Gikonyo. So I've known him for that long, and very many other friends like Dr. Frank Jenga and Dr. Grace Gitonyi, who and Lona Gogo, amongst others, who were, my classmates, from 1970. So I can say with the University of Nairobi, I graduated as a doctor, and after practicing in Nakuru for 2 years, as a medical officer, I went back to the same university and did my master's in pediatrics. And after that, I went to the University of Minnesota in USA to become a cardiologist. It's important to trace those journeys. But during those years, I also got married. I had 3 children. Now they are grown-up children. I have grandchildren, so that I don't live in a vacuum. University of Nairobi, let me just mention that, I have the opportunity to serve there as a member of council of the University of Nairobi, as well as founding the Alumni Association of the University of Nairobi. I was a founder chairperson, and I ran, with it, from the proposal to the inauguration, and left it, a solid organization that I'm proud of. Being member of council enabled me to be able to, to be involved in the policy of the university and higher education, for over 11 years. Again, something that I'm happy about. And I also have served in government as a chairperson of the Nairobi Health Management Board. And this is important because you need to give back to the community that, that has enabled us to be who we are, because it's not, we cannot say I'm self-made. I can say we are made by the community, environment, and these institutions, and of course the family, support that we have had. So with that then comes the journey to, as a professional doctor, as well as, working as a pediatric cardiologist, for quite some time, for 20 years. And, before finally coming to the current hospital to be an administrator. So the journey as an administrator was never something I ever thought about. I was never trained to be. I was trained to be a doctor. I love to be a doctor. But then I found myself as the chief executive officer of the current hospital in 2006 when the hospital was inaugurated. And I can tell you it was not a walk in the park. It was not a familiar ground for me, because that's not what I was trained to be. But I took everything, with both hands and did my best. But I realized even my best wasn't good enough, so I had to go back to school, and learn administration. So I went back and did an executive MBA, Master's in Business Administration, so that I could be, I could understand. It's not good to underestimate, what people do in administration. Is a profession completely different from being a doctor. And so with that, being armed now with the clinical medicine and administration, I started now the long journey of working with a lot of staff, because again, teamwork, a lot of doctors, nurses, people in the lab, people in the imaging, as well as administration, and we were able to get the current hospital off the ground, over the, and to be known, as a tertiary hospital, and also a training hospital. I would say now, as having served my term as a chief executive, I'm honored to be the executive chairperson or chairman of the group. And I say the group because now we have the headquarters, which is the current hospital. We have a medical training college with the current medical training college. We have the Heart to Heart Foundation, which is a medical charity that assists children with problems, with heart problems from poor families, and through fundraising and other walks and other ways of fundraising, we're able to get them to have surgery and get, a new lease of life. And there's nothing that can give you greater pleasure, than seeing a child who was unable to go to school, unable to play, now being able to go back to school, be able to, play, be able to go through, and become a professional. I've met many, some professionals, some are parents now, and they bring me their children, and it gives me great joy. So apart from the hospital, those we also have branches, and we have 8 branches scattered in the different counties. So we are in Meru, and we are also in Nyeri, and in Nyeri we have Karatina, and we have Thika, which is in Kiambu. Then here we have Rongai, a branch, and we also have a branch in Naivasha, a branch in Nakuru, and one in the city center. So again, there we are providing medical services outside the main hospital, and we are happy to do that, especially in the far-off counties where our doctors, our specialist doctors, are working day. We have doctors who are full-time there with the full-time medical services, but we also take our specialist doctors travel there regularly, some twice a week, to go and take the services closer to the people. That's very important, because traveling to Nairobi and navigating through the medical arena is not always easy. I would say that combination of those for the triad of the hospital, the medical training college, the Heart-to-Heart Foundation, and the branches, in addition to have also training doctors within the hospital. We have the COSEXA, which is a college of surgeons for East and Central Africa. We are accredited training, and we have students who are already in that. We are training doctors in cardiology, we are especially echocardiography. We are also training doctors from internship. So we are an internship accredited facility, and that's important because we are also now assisting in the creation of manpower in health, and ensuring that with time, if everybody plays their part, we'll have enough medical professionals who will take care of our people. Treating people is very important. Treating people who are sick is very important. But remember that you need people, you need staff. And by the staff that you need to two things: train. There are those who are already trained who come to work, and then there are those you need to train. But you are providing employment. And providing employment to 500 staff people across the country. That means you are supporting 500 families. Those 500 families each supports on average 10 families. That's the statistics in Kenya. So do you see the multiplier effect of starting an institution like Karen Hospital? Not only are you retaining our patients in Kenya instead of them traveling to India or to other places, but you're also providing employment for Kenyans, and especially Kenyans who are specialists in different areas, both medical and non-medical. The other thing, of course, is we registered ourselves, Karen Hospital, as a for-profit organization deliberately, so that because we would like to multiply ourselves. We like to have more Karen Hospital in Mombasa, in Kisumu, in Nakuru, even in East Africa, and even beyond East Africa. So that's how you grow a business, and we believe that it is just a question of time. The other bit that I always say is, once you register as a for-profit, you become a taxpayer. And it's important, because taxes are the one that maintain the public services. Governments do not, run businesses, or if they do, most of their money comes from revenue collected by Kenya Revenue Authority, and we are happy to be participating, in that arena. So Karen Hospital is growing day by day, and we are happy that we are being consistent in our efforts to bring quality healthcare, to the Kenyan people, to bring employment to our Kenyan people. We even have staff who are not from Kenya. We also are happy to be able to train, both at a very high level of cardiology, surgery, and others, as well as training diplomas in nursing, a diploma in echocardiography, and a diploma in clinical medicine. And we're also very happy to be able to participate in the charity work that we do in the community. We had run a clinic for 20 years, so we did not just jump from medical school to running a hospital. We ran a clinic for 20 years. It was a big journey, and I must thank the bank especially specifically Kenya Commercial Bank, that believed in us to give us the loan to put up this hospital and to make and have continued to support us, to put up 3 Tesla MRI, put a cath lab, be able, to be able to have a renal unit, an ICU. During this COVID, we are able to take care, of COVID patients, and with good outcomes. We are able to spread our wings to the branches and the training school and to the charity. So we needed people who would believe in us, and there are many, and our shareholders who trusted that, if they put money here, they will be doing good to the community. We also thank them. So my journey now I have now transited from CEO, to the chairman, and as chairman, mine is to look at the bigger picture at the level of corporate governance, and to make sure that we run the organization in the best practices in corporate governance. At the same time, looking at the growth, of the medical services, expanding the medical services to areas that are not been reached yet, getting more training, for more Kenyans, and of course, ensuring that we grow outside Nairobi. Already we are outside Nairobi. Go to the counties as hospitals, not as clinics. Go to the East Africa region, and one day become a Pan-African brand that we are all proud of. I think each of us would like to have a legacy, something that will be remembered for, something that others, when they come after us, will say, when Betty was here, what is it that she did? I think the greatest legacy that I would like to, or what I would really like to be remembered for, is just a village girl, who dared to dream, who dared, to go against the grain, and decide to do medicine, not only, and also be the first pediatric, first woman cardiologist, who dared, to be told, a hospital, that's not for you. Hospital is for big, the people with the deep pockets, and still dared, to go to Kenya Commercial Bank and other banks and ask for a loan, and be turned away many times for very many years, being turned away by banks, but still going on. So daring, over and over again, and even when things were very difficult, because it's not been an easy journey. Running this hospital, moving from a greenfield, facility, that is, here, what did we have at the beginning? Nothing. Now we have a hospital, which is 15 years old, which is now taking, doing open heart surgery, with the patients off pump, as we call it, and we are, and we are carrying out, major, procedures in the cath lab, where we are opening vessels with the balloons and putting pacemakers. I think it is something that, worth, daring, for. So that mine is simply that for a village girl who dare to dream and dream big. That's what I put in my autobiography. I think I did not mention that I've even actually penned down my autobiography, put all this information, in a book called "The Girl Who Dared to Dream," and that girl who dared to dream is Betty Gikonyo. I've had challenges in life, both at I would say family level, and also in the profession. I think it's good to just mention, because people see that as during, and I put it in my book, that my third child, when he was born, he had some medical problems, and I had to stop actually my postgraduate work, to take care of him and take him for surgery. So that was a challenge in my, but also the loss of my mother, at a young age, was a great blow, to my life. So on a family level, I would say those stand out for me. In the professional life, I would say it's more of when when you had to travel to Minnesota, with very young children, my oldest children, out of my 3 children, the oldest, at that time was 8 years old. So with an 8-year-old and a 6 and a 4-year-old, and I'm going to a foreign country, and I'm going to, first of all, I did not even have a scholarship at that point, but I was determined I was going to study. But my husband had a scholarship, so that stay in Minnesota for 3 years, with the children, and studying and doing the housework and doing everything. It's not like here. I think that was a very challenging time, but also something that taught me and opened my eyes to the possibility. In fact, I think the reality is that the dream of a hospital was born out of that Minnesota trip. There was a lot of time to think because it was cold and there wasn't much resources. So the other challenge I would say is now the hospital. This has been a very, very big challenge. Financially, it was very difficult. As I told you at the beginning, I was not trained to to be an administrator. I was not trained in finance, and and you do have, yes, we had employed people who were trained at all, but it was really it has been a very big financial, I would say, a great financial challenge. From the beginning, when you start off with loan money, and you really must pay the loan money. Then you have to pay staff. You have to pay suppliers. And yet the work does not come in today. So that has been something that I would like to write a book separately. But I've been teaching as many and participating in lectures as much as possible for people who are starting new businesses, people who want to venture into this big business. I'll call it big because big is relative because of where we actually started. So that the financial part. The other bit is the staffing. Kenya is still short of medical staff. So there's almost like a musical chair, of staff, moving from one hospital to another. Whoever can offer the highest bidder, gets the staff. So to start with, it was very difficult. As we got better, as we got more established, and as we also started training our own. In fact, that's why we started the nursing school, because we really wanted to be able to say we have very good nurses, and we have trained them the way we would like them to work. So that's been also a big challenge, and still continues to be in Kenya. We don't have adequate medical staff and for the population, and it is something that should be taken very seriously, because we have the capacity to train. Our girls and boys are graduating from high school. They will train in the medical professions, but there's so much now that has become it has to be paid for. Families cannot afford. We were a generation that has really very lucky and very fortunate, because I can say the university was free, medical school was free. So I did not have to come from a rich family to go to medical school. Postgraduate was free. So again, I could go back to the postgraduate and do my postgraduate in the University of Nairobi. Today, the situation is very different. I am I'm very passionate about women and women leadership, and I always feel, and I stand corrected, that we as women, are underrated, and we are not given the opportunities that really, we deserve, and something has to give way. So that women, yes, indeed, we have come a long way. I'm not one to complain or to say always affirmative action. I believe we can compete, with men, the same way. And I'm saying this with a lot of humility. From primary school to high school to university, medical school, I think there was no affirmative action. It was the same exam we all sat. You know, did you pass? You pass. Did you qualify? You qualify. So I think those kind of parallels, if we were to look at them, then we see there are many areas where women have already proved that, we have proved that, given the opportunity, equal playing ground, then we will, be able to, to compete. Let us give the young people, an opportunity to work. And and we do have a very young workforce. And when we talk about women, I wanted to mention that we here in Karen Hospital, we have more women than men. This is one company that has not one of the few that has greater, not just because we are in health, but because even when it comes to to non-medical areas, we have a lot of girls. Do I favor the girls? No. Is it? It's a competitive. Most of them. And I'm not saying that the boys don't. Are not. We don't employ them. But when left, open, even the girls can fight for themselves.